Hi everyone, Attorney Poonam Minhas back with more informational videos on U.S. immigration law. I just wanted to say thank you and welcome back to my subscribers. But if this is your first time here, then make sure you hit subscribe to stay informed about any changes and updates on U.S. immigration law. So today's topic is going to be about a parent adjustment of status interview, questions and pointers and tips. Now, someone had reached out to me and said, Poonam, there is so much information out on the web about spousal claims. Like if you file a green card for your spouse, and there's just so many helpful tips and tricks and questions that USCIS may ask your spouse during their interview when you do file the I-130 and adjustment of status. But that person also said, there's nothing on parents. So what am I expecting at this interview when I go there with my mom or my dad? So today's video is going to be about that. I thought it was interesting, so I thought I'd share it with all of you. So when your parents come into this country on, let's just say hypothetically, on a tourist visa, their intention is to go back to their home country, but maybe they change their mind and they decide, you know what, my son, my daughter is a US citizen over the age of 21, so they can sponsor me, and that, intent changes. So a lot of questions can be surrounding that intent, which I recommend that you consult and retain an immigration attorney for, because that's very, very important and you don't want to be stuck at that point. Another type of questioning that USCIS might do in a parent petition filed by a U.S. citizen child that is over the age of 21 would be the relationship. I mean, when you typically file an I-130, what's the purpose of that petition? Some people think, oh, you just can adjust and get a green card. No, that petition is to establish the relationship between the petitioner and the beneficiary. So that is surrounding the relationship. There are going to be questions about that. Another thing USCIS may ask your parent is entry into the US. How did you enter? Also, they can dig into prior entries into the United States on the same visa or other visas. How about if you've ever applied for a visa and were denied or refused? That is an important question that might come up. Also, if your parent has an extreme, lengthy, complicated immigration history, you need to get that case evaluated immediately. And I mean, even before filing anything. That's another thing they may dig into. You never know. Your parents might have had some type of immigration history that you were not aware of because you were young at the time or you weren't even born yet. So make sure to ask those questions to your parents. If it gets confusing, then guess what? You need to contact an experienced immigration attorney to go over everything. Sometimes, that person might not even be eligible to adjust in the United States, and maybe a waiver might apply, but you have to see if your parent has a qualifying relative where they can apply this waiver, and you need to show extreme hardship. So then that just gets a little complex. Another question that might arise if there's any type of arrest record from the past or in the future that recently happened after you filed the application. So that's another thing that's very important, and that's going to require you to consult with an immigration attorney. Have your parents ever violated the terms or conditions on the visa? That's another thing they're going to ask you. Have your parents ever worked in the United States without authorization? Have they lived anywhere else before coming from their home country? Have they ever also maybe lied to an immigration official? Or, it doesn't, when you think of the question where they're asking you, oh, have they ever lied to an officer or an immigration official? It doesn't have to be verbally. It can be written as well. I've had a lot of cases where the application that was filed many, many, many years ago, it could be, filing for maybe a tourist visa, where someone may have lied and said, oh, I'm single, but they were really married, and that comes up at the interview. You want to make sure you sit down and you create like a timeline of all the things that you've done, because they're all connected. Anything you do in your home country, you apply for any type of visa, whether it gets approved or not, they're going to eventually ask you, once they review your entire file, especially if you have an immigration history, whether you've intentionally lied to an officer. And that's where you need to get your case evaluated by an immigration attorney. Another pointer I would just like to give, since we are ending the video soon, is when you file the petitions, the I-130, the adjustment of status, questions that are asked on that application do get asked again. So if you're afraid, oh, you may have forgotten to mention something, or you want to add something that, you know, is very important, you can do it at the time of the interview. You just have to let the officer know. The officer will go through the adjustment of status application and cover all the questions, especially towards the end, which are called the security questions. That's going to come up surrounding whether you've ever been arrested, whether you have, engaged in some type of activity that might render you not adjustable in the US, or, other matters that might be problematic. Or if it's straightforward and the answers are just no, you're pretty much repeating what has been put into the application. So there's nothing really you can worry about. If you think your case is complicated, then you definitely should retain an experienced immigration attorney and go over your entire case. Do remember that this is just a general overview of what type of questions USCIS may ask. If you feel something has been missed, or you forgot to mention something, or you wanted to take out something that you put in as an error, maybe a date of birth is incorrect, instead of it being 1971, it should have been 1977, don't panic. You can let the officer know at the interview that I would like to make changes. There's a reason why the officer goes through the application at the interview. So don't panic. You have an opportunity to correct the application at the interview. So again, I just want to say thanks for joining me today. Let me know if you have any questions, and just make sure you don't post any type of comments under the video, because every case should be handled in a confidential manner. Again, this is just a general video. Just wanted to say thank you for joining me.